Hey everybody, it's me, Jennifer from Little Metal Foxes, and I've got a tool tip for you tonight. So, stay tuned here and let's take a look at thermoplastic in the studio. Hey Michelle, how are you? Welcome. And I've got a couple of different thermoplastics to show you and a couple of tips for how I use them and why they're kind of awesome to have in the studio if you don't already have them. Hello there from the ball field again. Thermoplastic, also in the industry, Rio's brand is usually referred to as JETT or JETT Basic or Ballistic, depending on what you're using. There's also a number of different thermoplastics that are around that are really good that can be used for all kinds of things. For creating handles, hello there, for creating handles or creating things to help you hold on to other tools and devices. You can also use them in ways that allow you to hold on to stone settings and small parts. So I want to show you that. JETT and thermoplastics in general, you can usually buy any of them from Amazon or any place like that. They're used for a variety of things that can be warmed up gently and molded to fit a particular thing. They've been used in the theater, special effects, for a very long time because they're rigid when they're cold, but when you warm them up in like a warm water, Thermal Lock from GRS is a good one. But basically, thermoplastics have been around for a long time. In the medical industry, a lot of times they will use sheets of thermoplastic for things like specially fitted braces and cast and for legs, arms, and body, because they can warm it up and lay it over a particular part of your body and have it fit perfectly for the person that needs it. So it's been used in the medical industry for a very long time. For the theater, it has been used to create very large, lightweight things that are, collars, crowns, jewelry, all kinds of stuff. So it's been used in, a lot of different areas, not just in jewelry. So you can find it at places like Michael's under the name Friendly Plastic, or you can find it for medical or theater use or for craft use, and you might find it actually for less expensive in other industries than you can for the jewelry industry. But it's and it also comes in a wide variety of colors and shapes. So you can get it in little pellets, you can get it in sheets, you can get it in rods, and just for your convenience, you may find one might work better than another. Some of them, like the JETT Basic, is a really it's a basic plastic. It's a basic thermoplastic pellet. And there's the ballistic. The ballistic has a little bit of like a pumice in it, which makes it a little bit grittier, a little bit grainier. So the difference is that with the ballistic version, because of that tooth that it has, you can't overheat it or it'll kind of fall apart and dissolve. It starts to lose its tenacity at a certain point. Michelle from Lear Work says that she uses the Thermal Lock when she puts things in the tumbler to protect the stones and fine parts. That's a great idea because you can tumble it and it's incredibly resistant to wear and tear because it is a really good plastic. It's a really hard plastic. So let me show you a couple of different ways that I use it. The JETT Basic and most of the thermoplastics warm up in warm water. That's usually what they recommend. And you can heat the water with JETT Basic. This is the one from Rio. Thank you, Rio. Shout out. And this one, not a sponsor. This one you want to heat up to about 165 degrees to get it to, which is not boiling, but it is really warm, so that it allows the little pellets in here, little pellets that are in there, to dissolve. Or they don't dissolve, but they kind of go kind of clear. There we are. Hey there, how are you? So they go kind of clear, and as they warm up, you can actually, they'll stick together and you can mold them. So it's kind of cool for that. But you don't have to have hot water to use this. When people are using material called pitch for repoussé, they use it's like a pine tar pitch that is very stiff when it is cold and very soft when it's warm, and people will sink things into it. Things like shellac and pitch have been used for centuries in the jewelry industry to be able to do the same thing. So you've got this new age material, plastic, that can take the place of things like pitch and resins to hold on to stone settings and objects that you can use, a little more easily. So warm water is great. If you've got like a little teapot that is electric and you can set it sort of on a medium setting, that's a great way to do it. I usually have a teapot in the studio that I can just warm up some warm water in and use it that way. You can use warm water from the microwave. That works really well too. But again, just make sure you don't overheat it as the biggest deal. So regardless of the name brand, whether it's Jet Set, Thermolock, or one of the Friendly Plastic, or any of the ones that you can find from online at Amazon, those work really well. So what I wanted to show you, because I've got a stone setting I've got to do, is one of the ways that I use it. So I'm going to flip you guys around here. Here we go. Boop. So you can see my bench a little bit better. And I've got a vise set up so that I can use my little handheld vise like this. And little handheld vices are great, and you can do this with an engraving ball too if you've got an engraving ball, but it's kind of nice to do this just with a little hand vise. These are about $20, not even $20, from any of your jewelry suppliers. And what I like to have a little vise attached to a bench pin, so I can just slide this right into my bench pin device on my bench. So, my solution to a more expensive GRS kind of solution. So what I've got here is just a little bit of the thermoplastic that I've heated up, and I kind of rolled it into a handle. So just warming it up and rolling it into a handle works great. But I've got like a really small part here that's going to be very difficult to hold on to. It's a cap for one of the stones. It's actually a piece of coral that I need to sort of clean up and work with. But, there's not an easy way to hold on to this so I can clean the end and get this ready to go. So I can use something like this and a heat gun. So this is just a Milwaukee heat gun. You can get these from Home Depot or the craft stores. And the heat gun is kind of nice because I can warm up the Friendly Plastic with a heat gun rather than warm water. And this works pretty quickly. There we go. And I can kind of shape it that way. And don't let it get too hot, but you do want to warm it up until you can get it to kind of mold to the shape that you want. And be careful you don't overheat it and then touch it, because you don't want to burn yourself. All right. Hey Jen, how are you? Hello. There we go. So yeah, warm this little puppy up. And just, you don't want to get it too hot right away. I usually don't want to use a torch because I don't want it that hot. But you can see it starts to go kind of clear when it gets warm enough. And that's what I want it to do. So, and it holds onto that temperature for a few minutes. So I can shape it and work with it and just kind of use my tweezers to kind of shape it where I need it. So I want to kind of push it up a little bit. And then I can take my setting that I'm going to work on and push it right into the Friendly Plastic and kind of mold that stuff around. So I can set this, and this is just warm enough that I can handle it. It's not too hot, but again, be careful you don't burn yourself, because this, if you overheat it, it'll get very hot and hurt. But as this cools, I've got a handle that I haven't heated, which is still rigid, and I've got this little piece on the front now that I can hold my little stone setting and work on this safely without damaging the rest of the stone setting. And like I said, this takes a few minutes to cool, but which allows me to sort of, mold and shape around the area that I want to protect and actually get a good grip on it. So I'm going to let that cool and come back to that. a lot of times I will leave this in kind of a sheet form after I use it so that I can warm it up and shape it pretty easily. For things like cleaning up bezels and parts, this is really great because it can easily protect the areas that I don't want to damage. So I've got to take off a little bit at the top of this, sand it down just a little bit around the edges, and clean that up a little bit, but I want to protect my jump ring and the lower part of this. I just want to have that top. And holding on to this can be a little difficult. So using my little vise here, my little handheld vise, I can warm up my jet set. Here we go. And button on. Here we go. So I'm just going to warm this guy up. And because it's in a sheet form and a little bit thinner, it won't take as long to warm up. And I kind of like to, like I said, leave it in sheet form so I can do that pretty quickly. There you go. It's starting to relax a little bit and get tacky. There we go. So I'm going to turn that over, and I'm actually going to just press it down, and it'll sink into the holes on my little vise. There we go. Yeah, I'm getting softer. There we go. And as it starts to warm up, I can kind of pile it up on top, so I have some material to work with. There we go. Ooh, excuse me. There we go. And like I said, this will hold on to some heat for a little bit. So as it starts to get clear, whoop, there we go. Be careful that it doesn't get too hot. And kind of, you can push it around a little bit. There we go. And now, I can take my setting and just sort of sink it right in here. And just sort of gently push my material around so that it will hold on to that. So in the meantime, this is cooled down. It's still a little bit warm, just a little bit moldable. And that works fine for me. So now I can easily file and clean up the end of this and not lose my grip on it. So for small parts, holding on to them, this works great. And I can shape it any way I want. I've had students that have had like arm surgery, hand surgery, broken their hand when they fell on the ice and couldn't grip onto things, and have used friendly plastic or the JETT set to make it so that they could hold on to it in their cast. I've had a couple of people that have had, missing fingers and parts, and have used the JETT set to be able to shape it to what they need to be able to hold on to things or fit around part of their arm or hand so that they could hold on to parts while they were working. And it just is really kind of a clever, easy way to be able to adapt the tool to the use. So even making, customized handles for things like your files. So a lot of times, small files and small file handles can be really uncomfortable. You can really mold, this to your fit. So if you've got some arthritis, if you've got some problems holding on to stuff, customizing this for your fit can make a huge, huge difference of, just being able to work longer in the studio and be able to hold your tools. So that way you're not trying to, squeeze and hurt your hands over long periods of time. There we go. Hello, hello. I can see people joining. Hello there. How are you? So now I've got a way that I can, even polish the end of this. And trying to polish the end of these small, delicate things is a pain in the butt because they'll get hot when you're trying to hold them, or, they'll fling off into the nether sphere, where you'll never find them again. So this way, it makes it real easy for me to hold on to this piece while I sand, polish, buff, whatever I need to do. So, hooray! And this piece, as it starts to cool down, makes it very easy for me to be able to go back and clean up the top of this bezel, just finally across the top. So yeah, that's still a little warm. I'm gonna let that cool down a little bit more, and that'll be good to go. So whether ever you're using, the Jet Set, or you're using any of the other friendly plastics out there, there's always a simple solution like this. Sometimes you don't need, a pound of Jet Set. You might just need like a little sheet that's enough to get on here, and they sell the friendly plastic at Michael's for, just for model making. You can get it online, I'm sure, as well, in smaller packs, so you're not having to buy a huge amount. You can get smaller amounts. So anyway, yes, thermal lock. It's awesome. So all kinds of uses, all kinds of great stuff for the studio. If you don't have some, I would definitely recommend it. And again, you can find all kinds of easy thermoplastic online. So Michelle says, when I do stone setting in filigree, there's no other way to support it. Yes, absolutely. I can completely understand that, because you've got something that's super delicate, and this is a great way to protect very delicate parts and pieces while you're doing something. If I have to hammer set this or whatever, this, because it is such a rigid plastic when it's done, allows me to use my chasing tool or hammer handpiece and really knock this down without damaging any of the area parts around it, because they're either protected underneath this or surrounded by it, or I have something that grips it for me. So this makes it really easy, again, to hold on to stuff, to make customized handles for your tools, and and it doesn't have to be like the specialty jewelry stuff. Also, let's see what's coming up. I'm going to tell you guys about the upcoming classes. Let's see here. We've got... Let me flip my cameras back around. There we go. Yeah. All right. So we've got a couple of good classes coming up, and I will tell you about those. Here's my bench for those of you that haven't seen it. Hey, Jen. Jen says, I've used Thermalock a few times. It's great for my work for the same reason as Michelle. Yep. A lot of people use it for, really basic uses. They, for either making tools. It's great if you're trying to create a custom shape for dapping, because you can sort of work it into a dome, or sort of a shape that you can use for freeforming or work over. So it's great for repoussé and chasing. It's great for forming. It's great for turning your hammer into a nylon hammer and customizing your hammers, customizing your grips, and holding on to small parts, protecting small parts. So if you don't have something like this, I really recommend it to sort of, really make your life a little more convenient. Also, let's see, I've got some fun classes coming up. I've got Julia has Etch in a Bag coming up. And let me tell you, Etch in a Bag is awesome, because it's the simplest way to use the safest acids for etching things like brass and copper. You can customize and make your own rolling mill plates in that class, and you can etch a plate in 20 minutes with the most basic equipment. And I was blown away when I saw Julia do this. It is absolutely amazing. So much easier than saltwater etching or electro etching or anything else. It's absolutely brilliant, and you get very similar results. So I highly recommend it. Etch in a Bag, it's $40, and it's on the 11th. Alternative stone setting, adding gold bezels, is coming up, and I'm adding some gold bezels with the piece that I just showed you. We're going to be working in gold scrap and gold fill, so we'll be talking about those guys, and that is on the 16th, so that's next week. Diamond Burs Demystified is coming up on the 18th. Now, for those of you that aren't aware of the Diamond Burs and aren't real sure what to do with burrs in general, highly recommend this, because Diamond Burs have so many uses in the studio that it's crazy. And if you have, you can turn your bench into a mini lapidary place that you can drill into stones, rocks, cut beads in half. There's all kinds of ways that you can use the diamond burrs and wheels to customize a lot of parts. I use it a lot because I use a lot of mixed media stuff, but it's great for adapting stones that don't fit into bezels at the last minute, and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? But I use it a lot for cutting like faceted beads in half to create like rose cut stones out of things that I can't find anyplace else. And so that's kind of fun. And so, yay! And there's only a few spaces left in that class. We offered this because the first one sold out. We added some seats, and it's sold out again, and we were just like, we're just going to add another section. So that is on June 18th, so I hope you'll join us for that. And Helen is going to be doing Intro to Fused Glass Jewelry coming up. The last tool talk that we did last week, she joined me and showed me how to use like glass stringers in the studio and bending them with like a candle, shaping glass with a candle. So she's got all kinds of great ways to make your own cabochons and talk to you about kilns and what kinds of like the small efficiency kilns that are a couple $100 instead of like big kilns. Sort of great place to start for a small studio. But Intro to Fused Glass Jewelry is on the 19th. So hope you'll join us then. And Working with Gold Fill is on the 25th, and we'll go over all kinds of good stuff like gold fill, wire and sheet, what the differences are from gold to gold plating to gold fill, what the alloys mean. So if you want to know more about gold in general and want an introduction to that, this is kind of what it is. And it's also a place to sort of find an economical way to add gold to your work without the expense of gold, solid gold, which can be very expensive. So it's more expensive than sterling silver, but I gotta tell you, it gives you a whole nother color, a whole nother way to create your work so that you're, if you're making work to sell, it gives your customers a whole nother color line. So there you go. And then Julie's doing cut card settings coming up on the 25th as well. And then starting in July, we've got some casting, lost wax, cuttlefish bone, which I love a lot. So I like cuttlefish bone. I use it in a lot of my work, and I'm loving my little earrings right now. I hope you do too. So I've got a whole series of chandelier earrings that I'm working on, which are awesome. So hold on tight for those. But lots of good classes coming up, and I want to make sure that you guys know we have a safety. Oh, what classes are good for beginners to take? Good question. Good question. We actually have, the first one that I would recommend is the chemical safety class. It's $10, and we tried to make it as affordable as we can. It's from Julia's lecture this last fall, and we felt that it was important enough for everybody to take, especially beginners who have not had a lot of exposure to the studio and what to do with the chemicals and light and ventilation and the torches, and there's so many things. So Julia goes over all that stuff. We don't take that down. You guys have access to that once you pay for it. And it's just, it's a video of that lecture and a really good kind of introduction to the classroom lectures that we do. There's also, if you go to our YouTube channel, there's a whole bunch of free content, all of our other tool tips, which are free, so you can watch all of those for free on YouTube. For the basic classes, things like the demystified classes are really good for introduction because they introduce you to a lot of the tools you may not be familiar with, and some of the basic classes we always put on there, you know, if it's what level it's for. So if you're a beginner and you want to learn how to add some texture to sheet metal, the etching class would be a great one to do, and that's coming up right away. We will be offering setting up your home studio coming up in about a month and a half. We just did the torch class, so we're going to do that again. So we've got a whole bunch of intro level classes that we're going to be doing coming up in the fall, because a lot of people are going back to school, have more time in the studio, more time to sort of experiment and play, and are sort of going into lockdown again as far as like, you know, being at home. They've got time to sort of, you know, be in their studio a little bit more rather than playing outside where it's beautiful. So as the weather gets worse, we've got more intro classes coming. One of the things that we're also going to do in the next month is add some basic classes that you can watch anytime. And those are going to be a little bit more affordable. They're going to be hour-long classes that are introduction to files, saws, drills, and there's one other one that we're adding. So those are going to be our Core Academy classes that you can find, and those should be up very soon. We're recording those in the next 2 weeks. So keep your eyes out for those. I hope I answered your question, BBB Betty 7. So keep an eye out for those things too. So if you guys have any questions, or if you have questions about the classes, or questions about the tool tips, or if there's a tool tip that you'd like us to do, let me know. We've done about 68 of them at this point. So they're all on our YouTube channel at Little Metal Foxes. So take a look. We have guest people like Michelle Lier and and Chris Anderson and Julia Lowther and Helen Cowart. So we have all kinds of guest artists that we're talking to about our tool tips. And also Playing with Fire is on our YouTube channel. So sometimes I'll go over to Julia's and we'll just play. Sometimes that's with enamels, and sometimes it's with, what did we play with last time? Oh, setting up her oxygen concentrator for her torch. And so we set that up. That was really fun. So anyway, that's all free content, so you can sort of peek at that and see what that looks like, and join us for some fun. One of our goals at Little Metal Foxes is to make the classes interactive, so you guys have a classroom type experience where you can ask questions, you can work from your own studio and have live interaction with an instructor and the other students. And the other students a lot of times bring a lot of information to the classes, which is a lot of fun. You know, we learn stuff, they learn stuff, and they can share their knowledge with others, and there's no stupid questions. So it's kind of awesome. So I highly recommend that. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week, and join us for Tool Talks next week. And like I said, if you have any ideas, tools that you would like tips on, let us know, because we might feature that for a Tool Talk coming up. All right? Thanks, you guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Mwah, mwah. Bye.